Folks, thank you for inviting me. And I was listening at the back to many things that Dr. Rangarajan said and everybody else spoke about. So I would like to talk about the magnitude of the problem, then come down to what could be possible solutions so that we could go back with some kind of an idea of what we need to do. We are in a big crisis as a country. And I don't think most of us understand the magnitude of the crisis we are in. Let me give you an example. 20 years back, we produced 2.5 crores babies a year. 20 years back. And all those babies, barring maybe 5% who die on the way because of this mortality, are all becoming adults today, crossing the age of 21, and all want jobs. 52% of Indians depend on something called agriculture in our national income composition. And agriculture is 14% of GDP. It's come down from 18% since Dr. Rangarajan was there. It's been a few years, I guess. And it's going down rapidly because it's growing only at 3.5%. Rest of the economy is growing maybe at 8.5%, 9% if you grow at 7.5%, 8%. 70% of farmers don't want their children to be farmers. So it's very clear where the aspiration is. So I would reckon out of these 2.5 crore babies, maybe 75%, 1.8, want to come to the job market. So we have to create 1.8 crore jobs every single year for the next 30 years. 1.8 crore jobs. And these jobs have to be good jobs. They're not going to dig holes. Marega is a gone case. In the Marega program in all the villages is Mahatma Gandhi, so it's Marega. You know, old senior citizens and women who left behind, they do the work, and most of them outsource to somebody else who makes the bill, and they get maybe out of 150 rupees, 80 rupees a day. So it's like a dole that has happened. So that program, unfortunately, takes India back 200 years, because before the Industrial Revolution, you depend on your physical prowess to do work, and that job requires physical prowess without the use of equipment. It's a very silly program done just as the DOSE program, so we can as well forget about what is happening. So we need 1.8 crore jobs. And for these 1.8 crore jobs, we have to grow at 9%. And we're not growing at 9%. And this 9% growth will give you good jobs because the last 10 years, if you look at proper data, not the data that the government of India gave in the economic survey, which is stupid, which said in the decade of the first decade of this 21st century, you know, jobs grew at 0.5% a year. They did not. Jobs grew at 7.5% a year. Because if you look at Provident Fund data, which are only reliable data because everybody who works in the formal sector needs to have a Provident Fund account. So everybody opens an account. The Provident Fund account in the last decade grew at 7.5% a year when the economy grew at 7.9% a year. And that's why we experienced labor shortages despite such huge numbers coming in the formal economy. So we produce a lot of jobs. Today I would reckon there are about 10 crore formal jobs, 2 to 2.25 crores in the government sector, parastatal, central and state, and the balance in the private sector and the public sector, including 30% contract labor jobs. These are all contract labor because nobody wants to employ full-time labor. They rather do contract for very many reasons. So we have produced enough jobs, and we've been producing jobs at about 7.5% a year, and I would reckon we are producing about 70 lakh jobs right now, 70, 80 lakh jobs right now. So we're not producing enough jobs. Between 1.8, which is required, 1.8 crores and 70, 80 lakhs that we produce, there's a huge gap. And that's why in UP, 1 in 2 young people are unemployed. And the situation is going to get very much worse. Let's be clear about that. Why is it getting worse? Because this country has such stupid policies on labor that it incentivizes capital-intensive industries. If Reliance sets up a 1 lakh crore refinery, they probably get 90,000 crores as subsidies. Why? They don't have to pay sales tax or they get a loan. But if you set up a garment factory to employ 5,000 people, you get so much of harassment that you rather go to China and set it up because you can't have 5,000 people. It's reserved for the small scale sector. Are there some silly rules where the inspector come and harass you? In Bangalore, there are 5 lakh garment workers. And Bangalore doesn't have labor. So they send buses in the villages to grab every woman who walks on the street, put them inside and bring them and ask them to do some sewing. So we don't incentivize labor. We incentivize capital. All the subsidies are based on capital investment. So every state government says 15 lakh crore capital investment, 5 lakh crore capital. Nobody talks about jobs. So our own national thinking has to change, because it's the hands that go and vote and not the machines. So we have to have labor-intensive policies for this country. So we need to change there to produce the kind of jobs. Now what happens the next 1 year if you produce only 10 crore jobs, maybe 10 crore jobs, and the 25 crore young people coming out? We're going to have chaos in this country. I'm told in Hyderabad, many of the engineering graduates drive automobiles. I mean, the engineering education they get is very good, because they can do the, I don't know whether they use spark plugs and plugs, whatever they do, they can open the bonnet and at least understand what is inside, right? The 4-year engineering program will do. But it's a very sad testimony as to what is happening, and this is the great situation, and if it continues for another 20 years, we are in deep trouble. Now look at the economy. There is a solution. We are a $2 trillion economy today. $2 trillion. 1 crore 25 lakh crores. That's the value in rupees. It's too big to talk in rupees, so we talk in dollars. We are $2 trillion in GDP in nominal terms, and we are $4.5 trillion in PPP term, purchasing power parity terms. So we're the third largest economy in the world. It's a fairly large economy and very, very large. The beast is extremely large. So large is like the elephant with 9 blind men who don't know what the shape of the beast is, least of all government in Delhi, and least of economists in this country. They really don't know how big this beast is, because they go with bad data in the economic survey. Now, if you grow at 7% a year, and we have grown at 6.9% a year for the last maybe 25 years, 6.9%. China has grown at 9.9% a year for the last, from 1979 till 2014, at 9.9% a year. Only now they're growing at 7.5 or so, and we've grown at 6.9. Even if we grow at 7% a year, we double our economy in 10 years, and double again. So this 2 becomes 4, and 4 becomes 8 in 20 years' time. So we can be $10 trillion if we grow at maybe 8% a year by 2035. So we have to accelerate economic growth. And if accelerate economic growth, maybe the job creation will go from 75 lakhs a year, and not all of them are in IT. They're in many other jobs too, including some sales job and contract labor job and all the nice jobs that you have, very well paying jobs. So you can possibly take it up to 1.25, 1.3 crores a year, but not meet this huge demand. So we have a big gap that is coming up. And look at higher education today. 770 universities, 47,000 colleges, 3 crore young people in college. And the FICCI Higher Education Council, which I chair, says by 2030, we will have a GR of 50% in the age group of 18 to 23, as against 22.5, and we'll have 7 crore young people in colleges. Because enrollment in colleges is growing at about 7 to 7.5% a year. That means every young kid wants to go to college in any part of this country. But whatever college it is, they still want to go to college and get the piece of paper where they want to say makes them a degree holder. So there's an aspiration to go to college. That means people going through the system want to go to college and finish, maybe 15 years of education, 15, 16 years of education, and that aspiration is rising. One hand you have the rising aspiration, other hand you have bad policy, you have a gap in employment, and the economy not producing enough jobs. So there is a big challenge that we have to face. Out of 100 children who enter class 1, only 60 today complete class 10 and pass. Only 60, even now. And that's fantastic, because we were at 30, 35 10 years ago. And out of this 60, maybe 35 to 40 go and do class 12. And then maybe 60% of them go do a college degree. And maybe 80% pass or whatever it is. So the wastage along the line is very huge. So between 100 entering and 22 and a half or 23 getting a college, there is about 78 which are not going to college. What do you do with them? So the problem is so big, we're not going to discuss the 78. Because we can live in denial. It's very good to live in denial and say it doesn't exist, not my problem, it's Modi's problem, right? Modi has now come and promised he's going to change the world, so his problem. So he'll do it. And the UP problem is a Bihar problem, not a Tamil Nadu problem, not a Karnataka problem, not a Kerala problem, because in all these southern states, population is growing at 0.9% below replacement rate. In the state of Kerala, by 2030, there'll be more Biharis than Keralites, because they're not producing enough babies. Kerala grew only at about 5.1% in the last 10 years, 5.1%. Only 5.1%. Look at the census statistics. It's fascinating data to look at and understand population growth, because population growth has to be seen. So the southern and the South India, that is Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Karnataka, was 30% of India's population in 1971. Now in 2011 it's only 25%. So we are becoming smaller. South India is becoming smaller, better educated. So the problem for us is very much less. So we can live by, unless the people from UP and Bihar come down here, then we got a major problem. So, having stated the size of the problem, what should we do about skill development from our colleges and universities, because you possibly come from higher educational institution? I would still say, in an old-fashioned way, having learnt in my course, that the most important asset a young person should have from college is a problem-solving attitude. When you come out of college, you must know how to solve problems. And problem solving requires an analysis of the cause of the problem, looking at potential solutions and making a choice. So it is logical thinking, it's analytical ability. It is the ability to put intelligence to solving a problem. And that is what we must teach to our kids first and all. All the domain that you teach about thermodynamics, mechanical engineering, surface tension is all there in Google. You just Google, put a question, you get 100 bright people giving you answers. Right? But you must know what those answers mean. And what do you do with the answers? Not like the Super 30 from Bihar who come and blurt it out, because they don't know what it means, but they know what it is. So you must know what to do with it. And that's what you must teach them. You must teach them a problem-solving attitude. And to teach them a problem-solving attitude, how do we teach that to them? We do it by using case studies and projects in educating them in a class. I once wanted to have an entrepreneurship development program in Manipal, so we caught our business school and told them we want to teach entrepreneurship. Out of 6 months of scheduling, the professors came back and told me, we got a course curriculum. I said, fantastic, what is it? Yeah, we got a course curriculum. What is entrepreneurship? What are the different kinds of entrepreneurship? What does marketing mean? And all the nice theory. I told them this is rubbish. I said, the way to teach entrepreneurship is very simple. Get all the people in class together and tell them make a business plan. Create a team of 5 along with the professors. Professors may also learn how to make a business plan, but get them together and tell them make a business plan. And to make a business plan is very clear. You should know what to sell. That means they must make a demand assessment of what to sell, a product or a service. You must know how to deliver, what to make. You must know how to manufacture or get it, how to finance, how to hire people, blah, blah, blah. So the business plan. Ask them to come and present. And after you present, everybody should present. So everybody knows who is more foolish than the other. And when they go by, they learn. Because in presenting by various teams, people all come to know. And then after that, get them all there and teach them entrepreneurship or business management through the business plan. So they understand theory to practice. Now there is theory, there is practice. We are taught technology is application of science. But in technology institute, engineering colleges, we teach technology like science in theory. E equals mc square. How do you use it? I don't know, but E equals mc square. That is it. So we have to make sure that we teach them through projects. Give them some projects in the first year, maybe second year, and ask them to study on their own and come back. They can Google, they can copy, they can do everything, and ask them to come and present. So when I stand before an audience and talk to everybody and give them the perceived wisdom that I've got, I'm a very different human being. And when you make all of them do it, they each understand where everybody's science. And then there'll be competition between everybody. So we got to teach them a problem-solving attitude, and that is first. And second, despite what anybody says, you must teach them how to talk. Now, life is about communication. The distinction between an animal and a human being is I'm able to talk, I'm able to conceptualize, I'm able to put it before you. I use language. The beast is not able to do language except grunt. But our children only come and grunt. So what do we do with this? So we got to teach them how to talk, how to convince, how to tell people what your ideas are, what is the thing in your mind, because your hard disk capacity is enormous, but it has to come out. We still don't have a chip which translates hard disk capacity into speech automatically. It may come, somebody may discover it, but we don't have that. So we have to teach them to be articulate, to stand up confidently, because 90% of our life is selling something to somebody. If you want to marry somebody, you got to sell it to that poor girl or boy, right? That you got to sell, and you want marks, you got to impress your teacher. And you want to go for a job, you got to tell your employee, know something, got to open your mouth. So we got to teach them how to talk, how to articulate, and how it has to be done. And the next thing is, we got to teach them curiosity. I don't know how to teach curiosity. A child is very curious when the child is born. When the child grows up, till the child enters school. And by the time the child finishes school, there is no curiosity left. So we should be curious. Because the greatest thinkers were very curious. They're very simplistic. They were curious. They asked questions. And if you look at ancient Indian education, what did we do? We were taught as children to go to a Gurukul. In a Gurukul, there was a dialogue. The teacher and the taught, there's a dialogue. Nachiketa had a dialogue with Yamaraja in the Katha Upanishads, right? It's a fantastic dialogue about the meaning of existence. But a dialogue between a 14-year-old young boy and a great learned scholar. But it's a dialogue. So there has to be a dialogue. So in the classroom there has to be a dialogue. It cannot be a monologue. Because today, the kid who comes to class knows more than the professor. Why more than the professor? Because he's Googled. He just Google, put the question, he knows everything. All the topics from the best professors is there, the lectures in audio video is there, and he compares that with the professor here. The professor has no match for this, unless the professor plays the same stuff. And most probably the professor has not read the stuff, what the kid knows. And they're very smart. They want to come to class to prove that you don't know anything. I mean, we used to do that in a small way, but we didn't read much, but they know everything on their laptop. So there's a problem. So what do you do with this problem? There's a mismatch. There has to be a dialogue. And this means of communication and thinking, curiosity has to be aroused. And curiosity will create a problem-solving attitude. And the way to make a curiosity is to make sure that you actually give them projects. I'll tell you my example about my son. He's a very bright boy. He's well-read. He went to a college in Bangalore, the best college in Bangalore. After 2 years, he said he wants to stop studying. I said, stop studying? How can you do that? No, I want to stop studying. Why? I go to class, it's boring, the teacher doesn't ask questions, allow me to ask questions, I find uninteresting, I'm fed up of everything, I just want to stop studying. I said, hang on, please be careful. He finished, he got into Stanford. Stanford is a tough place to get in, right? So he must have been bright. So he got into Stanford, and then he studied 14 hours a day, taking all kind of courses because you could make a choice. He got a good credit. He passed a double E, and after examination made me pay $21,000 to study 6 months more. So what are the difference? Here's a young boy who wants to learn. His mind is curious. Why is it curious? Because they've given him projects. There is peer pressure. They've given him the freedom to study. They've given him everything that's available and asked him to come and present. So he wants to do things. So he's become internalized. From a situation where he said, I don't want to study, I want to go to get out of college. Well, I thought it'll be a Bill Gates if he just drops out, but it's not so easy. I know it's not so easy. So to a state where he said, Papa, pay me $21,000. $21,000 is a lot of money for 6 months. And he did well, and he got 3.85 out of 4 or something like that. So what is the difference? This is the difference. You must retain curiosity. And for that, you must have a dialogue with the young person and make him think and do that. And believe you me, every young man or girl or a woman wants to be curious. They want to learn. The mind is like a sponge soaking up information and everything else, questioning. So you've got to make them question, make them come out. They're suppressed inside. It has to come out. Many of my classmates who didn't do well in school, they got a third class or whatever, third class. They were the third class at the time, 50%, we got 95%. They all went to America and stood first in class. So I was surprised. I said, how did you stand first in class? I'm first in the university. What did you do? That means, what does it mean? It means that you must create an ecosystem, environment where the thirst for land comes out. Can do it for everybody? Maybe not. Today maybe you produce 25% smart kids. By creating an open architecture, you could produce 55%, 60%. And the 55-60% will pull up another 10-15%. So you go from 25% to 70%, that's fantastic. The balance 25% never had hope. They were just going through. It was like Osho. Never lived, never died, passed through planet Earth. Are passing through college, and it's all right, and I think we should just allow them to do something like that. And then, how do you connect with real life and the college? That's another big problem, real life and the college. Because the professors who teach, they're diverse from real life. Because traditionally we've been taught, like judges, that teachers should be secluded, they must be cloistered, they must think deeply about the meaning of existence, and not live in real society. And they still follow that very great maxim, and that's very good news. But then, how do you make them connect? And there is a disconnect today. And it's true what everybody said about industry and reality. There's a disconnect. And the disconnect is getting wider and wider. Because the books that the professors learned long back are out of print. New print has still not come. But pardon me for speaking like this because, I want to be very real. I don't want to just come and tell nice things to everybody, but I want to say reality because as head of HR, I hired 160,000 people for Infosys.
and we trained all of them. We built the biggest corporate university in the world. We produce more software engineers than any country in the world, barring the United States and China. So we went through all this pain in creating very high quality people who are not paid so much, so everybody gets poached now because industry is not setting up their own training facility and saying, okay, let Infi hire them, after 1 year we can pay 1 lakh more and get them free of cost, so we don't have to go through all this training. That's actually a good method from gentlemen from PayPal. I think we must find out good companies and after they give the training, poach them, pay 2 lakhs, it doesn't matter. So, going through all this process, you have to have this connection, and the connection is at best nebulous. And the connection has to be made, and that's why I think people like Talent Spring are very important because they hopefully are more connected to industry than the professors are. And let me tell you, the life of a professor in the college is very tough. The teaching load is very high. Examination load is very high. Semesters and tests and marks and teaching them, because you need some 2,000 hours a year in teaching, right? And some 25 examination. It's a very high load. And somebody comes and tells us, you must all do research. We will all do research. After 2,000 hours of teaching and correcting all this thing, where is the time for research? You don't have the time to scratch your back. And you want to do research. We don't have enough research. You must think researchers. Our global ranking is low because we don't do research. In America, professors don't teach, they do research. They don't even teach. There's a problem of lack of teaching. They want to do research, they want to get jobs, right? And they make 1 paper or 2 papers a year. Here, teach 2,000 hours, work 14 hours a day, no time for family, and do research. It doesn't work. So we have a problem. And the problem is not going to change. Because we've got the AICT putting all these rules, and we've got everything else, so we need a connection, and the connection should come from companies like Talent Spring. Why Talent Spring? Because one of the few companies to survive so far. They also gone to the Darwinian theory, like AICT colleges, and many of them have died, so they're the ones left, so they must be really good. And I know Santan and others, and I tried them in Infi. I think they're pretty good. So you need this connection to be made, and if you have this connection and put that in the course curriculum and have them projects, I think it'll work. Another idea which came up, which I totally agree, is in the 4-year examination, a 3-year course, a 4-year course, you must spend time in industry. You must ask industry to come, sit down, talk to you, take your students free of cost or whatever it is, and the professors and teachers like Coimbatore should go, work 1 or 2 years, understand the problem, because seeing is believing. Seeing is believing. I did my chartered accountancy, alright? In chartered accountancy, why do we succeed? Because we, in the 3 years that we do articles, we go and work, we do audits. We don't know, they call us auditors the first year, we don't know what we are doing, we tick something, write something, make some silly remark, but we learn. And the consultants teach you the way to learn. You sit in front of the client, ask them silly questions, they'll make some answers, and use the answers and write the report and tell them what they already know. So there's a technique in that. So when you actually go and see how factories work, how offices work, how things are done, I think you become very good. And that's why this interaction with industry is essential. Getting alumni is essential. Getting them on a board is essential. If you look at the world's greatest universities and make a study why they're successful, there are 3 or 4 things. One, they have autonomy. I wish Dr. Rangarajan was here. I want to tell him that our universities don't have autonomy, and he forgot. Access, equity, quality is all well known, but if we don't have autonomy, what is the point? The UGC has a rule which says under section 23, you can give degrees which only have the nomenclature in the rules, right? So you can give a degree in mechatronics and teach electronics fully and no mechatronics. So long as it's called mechatronics, it goes, doesn't matter. So there is no autonomy for our universities and colleges. Everything is dictated. Number of hours, course material, structure of the course, professors to assistant professor to lecturer, everything is dictated, everything is said, so you don't have to do anything, and the output is almost nil. Because everything process is fantastic, because all input based and not output based. So there is no autonomy. And second, what we need in university is, great universities have alumni sitting on the board. 40 to 50% of people are alumni. Stanford has alumni, Harvard has alumni, Oxford has alumni. All the great universities have got alumni sitting on the board, because alumni give money. They give money. They set up their own buildings with their name. They want to see it. They don't want to leave the college, so they want the name to be there. And so long they pay the dollars, who cares? And then they give you connections with industry. Because when I'm a Josephite, I studied in St. Joseph's. When I go to interview somebody Josephite, I get an entry. Why? Josephite, it works. The Old Boys network works. So you get them in and you do that, and it has to be done. The last part I want to talk about is how do you create an innovative culture in a university or a college.
Because at the end of the day, innovation is the key driving society. We all know this stupid, silly story about Apple. Apple spends $108 for manufacturing in that company in China, and they sell it for $500, right? Rest is for design and packing. Because they found out how to design that apple with a small bite, so that's $400 per piece. They make a lot of money. And they got $170 billion of cash in the balance sheet, which is enormous. So, how do you create an innovative culture within universities? And that's where you must think. To my mind, innovation comes by an open system. The system has to be open. Students have the flexibility to take designer courses, majors and minors. Why can't do mechanical engineering with music? Why can't do electronics with philosophy? You might not laugh. But if you think of philosophy, philosophy is all about logic and answering big questions and thinking about open systems, right? Music is all about getting the creative juices and finding out things which you didn't know exist. So if you have combination of these courses, you foster creativity. And then we must teach in engineering colleges, we must teach humanities to our children. We must teach them great literature. We must have, our local literature, Thiruvalluvar, or, Shakespeare, or whatever it is, being taught to them and taught by great professors who talk to them. You must have dance, drama, music, all the jazz. And why is that? Because it creates a holistic person. I found in Infosys that people who came from engineering college bright gates were all algorithms. They were algorithms. 1 + 1, 2, 2 + 2, 4, 4 + 4, 8. They know everything. But the algorithms, they don't have human feelings. So they can't know design. If you ask them to do something that dreams something very nice, it works, but it's so ugly you don't want to buy. And values in the design, values in the creativity. So how do you foster creativity? Creativity can be fostered by having humanities so that they think of something else. Humanities without technology, maybe philosophy, but humanities with technologies gives you good employees and good people, and you get lifelong skills. So you must teach them the bigger things, the better things of life. So this holistic education is what gets them. And I found another thing. Software people, when they marry, they have problem getting children. Because the husband works sometime, night shift, wife works, wife travels, husband travels, they never meet. And you got to meet, right? I mean, otherwise it's going to be very difficult. And then, if they have a fight, and somebody says, I'm going to my father's house, he said, go. Okay? Yeah. I may come back tomorrow. Fine, I'm not here anyway. So, this humanness is gone. In engineering, that bonding of a human being, that feeling inside, that passion, that energy to bond, to create teams. Like somebody, gentleman said here, you want to put 4 people in a room and change them every year because they learn how to socialize. Because life is a social activity. And engineering, we don't teach them how to socialize. In engineering, we teach them an algorithm, to be logical, to be reasoning, if at all they learn something. And that is an important, because you've got to create a human being. Yes, universities have to create human beings. They need skills. For skills, you require some partners. They all come together. So I'll stop here by just saying, I think we got a big challenge. And this challenge cannot be tackled uniformly. There is no great mantra for the challenge. Each college, each university has come out with a strategy. And in the future, we're going to have less jobs. In America, in the last 15 years, the income of the average middle class has not grown at all. It's not grown at all for 15 years. And the number of jobs has shrunk by 35%. 35%. Because jobs in America are being created when your billionaires are in Silicon Valley writing code and creating all the big companies, Twitter, Gitter and all that, which get upset valuation, or you are in Walmart or in McDonald's waiting on tables. The middle class for which we prepare our people, who write papers and documents and report, they're all gone. Because all getting automated, and people are writing scripts for that. So I think there's going to be a big challenge. So in an environment where there's going to be greater competition for good jobs, lack of good jobs, greater competitive pressure, huge pressures, how do you survive and become best in class? And that is the strategy which all of you have to sit down for your own institution, think and come out. And for that, you got to promote openness and open architecture. You got to promote innovation, creativity, communication skills, problem-solving attitude, and the logical thinking ability. And must move by being purveyors of information. So stand here and keep pushing information to people who tell students how to use that information knowledge to solve problems. Thank you very much.